He kōna I purangi tēnei nā te reo irirangi o Aotearoa.
Okay, 1982. Cue the adventure music. Hand me my glow sticks. Let's go. Oh, it'll be disco shoes in 82. It'll be. Give me my platforms. All right. 1982 was a big year for Kelly Tarlton. In January, he had managed to find the third anchor of the St John Baptiste, the oldest verifiable European artefact in New Zealand. Kelly was keen to recover the anchor, but he didn't have the money. Treasure hunting was expensive, and the revenue from his museum of shipwrecks wouldn't cover it. But Kelly had another scheme to bring in cash. This dream would change aquariums around the globe forever. Kelly had a lot of extraordinary people who he brought together to build this aquarium. And I'm hoping I can get their help to complete this one last adventure for him. And honestly, this is just too good of a story not to tell. I'm Hamish Williams, and this is Kelly Tarlton's final treasure hunt. Originally, Kelly's idea was to open an aquarium in Northland, just down the road from his Museum of Shipwrecks in Paihia. His wife, Rosemary, was the manager.
When we were living in Paihia in the 1970s, he designed several thoughts and he drew up several plans or made paper mache of how he could stage an aquarium. He had one of a pufferfish. You went through its mouth and then around the outside of the body, and in the middle was the aquarium. But of course the land we wanted to put it on, it wasn't possible because it was owned by the Trust Board. We had objections from different locals. And we spent a lot of money on red tape.
Permissions aside, there was a major snag with all of this. Kelly didn't know much about aquariums at all. It was time for an international fact-finding mission that in April 1982 took him and Rosemary around the world.
This is John Rupp, our aquarium curator.
Howdy, John. Kelly Tarlton from New Zealand and my wife Rosemary. I'm tape recording this, so you're down for history. Or
Kelly had a habit of recording all of his meetings on cassette tape, just so he didn't forget any important details.
How do you go about catching these? Do you just catch them? Oh, you got hammerheads.
Belongs to the same genus as the hammerheads, but because it doesn't have the hammer quite so elongated as the hammerheads do, they call it a bonnet head.
Right.
The bonnethead sharks came very...
There was a specific focus for Kelly on visibility, how people could have the clearest view of the sea life.
Can he draw out for me the circuit of their tanks?
But first, he needed to find somewhere to build it. With the Bay of Islands ruled out, he started talking to his mates about other locations. One of those mates was longtime friend Dave Moran, who had first met Kelly as an electrician when he helped with work on the Museum of Shipwrecks. Dave got a call from Kelly to come take a look at a location in Auckland.
He rings me up and says, "Oh, Dave, you free for a minute?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, what?" And he goes, "Oh, I've got the old rusty Toyota. Toyota was just about falling apart." And he said, "Oh, I got the Toyotas sitting on the footpath down here, out by the wharf. Racky there." He said, "Come down," so I drove down. And he's got a manhole in the footpath lifted up, and he said, "Oh, come poke your head down there, you see." And so we sort of climbed down the ladder a bit, and it's just a big dark hole. And he said, "Oh, look, we think we can put an aquarium down here." And I thought, you've got to be joking.
What Kelly was showing Dave was the old sewage treatment plant on Tamaki Drive. It was dark, slimy, and came with a stench that you would expect from 60 years of sludge. What it was, though, was a large cavernous space with direct access to seawater from the neighbouring Orake Bay. To Kelly's mind, the perfect location for his aquarium.
And he goes, oh yeah, I've got to get permission and everything, but there's 3 of these tanks. I said, really? And he goes, yeah. And he said, oh, Dave, you might as well do all the electrics and friggin' everything else. So yeah, away we went.
This was late 1983, and by January 1984, Kelly had the green light to begin construction. One of the first steps was getting rid of the sludge. Luckily, Kelly already had the kit he needed for that, his famous suction dredge. Kelly and a few particularly dedicated mates donned scuba gear to protect themselves from carbon monoxide poisoning and let rip with the water jets, flushing 60 years of accumulated sewage out into the harbour. Probably not the kind of thing you could get a resource consent to do these days. But that was only the first step. Kelly's big idea for the aquarium was to make visitors feel like they were going beneath the sea, with long, transparent underwater tunnels. Nothing like this had ever been tried before. He found a company in Japan that said they could bend the required sheets of plastic for about $1 million. There was no way Kelly could afford that. What's more, his financiers wanted the aquarium open for business before Christmas. He'd have to get very clever to make the budget work. So in 1984, he travelled to a plastic factory in Germany to learn more about the material and see if he could do the job of bending it himself.
April the 5th, just talking to Mr. Crowder.
Kelly travelled to Germany in early 1984 to learn more about the material, to see if he could do the job himself. He actually covertly recorded his conversations with engineers at the plastics factory.
He mentioned that it is permissible to put a cold block straight into a 165 degree temperature oven and let it build up. The only limitation may be on the cemented joint, which may bubble if you overheat it or heat it too quickly.
This was a precision operation. Too thin, the perspex would crack. Too thick, it could distort the light and make it difficult to see the fish. The temperature of the plastic had to be closely controlled during bending to avoid the sheets warping and stop them from fitting together properly. Kelly trialled bending the plastic on a small scale first, using a standard kitchen oven. Then he and his crew constructed an oven the size of a small house. It was all ready to go in August 1984, just months from opening.
I was there for the first bending of the acrylic.
Susie Thompson was hired to become part of the aquarium team.
As we left work that night, Kelly said, "Oh, what are you doing tonight?" And we were going to the movies with friends. And he said, "Oh, well, if you're not doing anything afterwards, come out to Taniwha. We're going to pull the first piece out of the oven." We got there, and Kelly just looked at us and said, "Oh, nice of you to turn up." And he had all these gloves lined up outside waiting for us, asbestos gloves, because he needed help. He actually needed us there, but he didn't say that. He just knew we would turn up. And he put us on a chain on each corner of the perspex to lower it into a mould. So it had been in the oven for 8 hours. You bring it out, drop it into the mould, and then put it back in for 12. As it was the first time, they were quite nervous to get it in exactly right. We had to lower at the same time. And we did it, but we had Kelly conducting us. He had a big stick and he was pointing to each one, watching it going in. And he had, I think, a bottle of whiskey or something, and we had a little drink and went home.
Kelly's dream was a crucial step closer to coming to life. But there was so much more to do. concreting, installing the conveyor belts to carry visitors through the tunnels, and don't forget, catching fish to put in the tanks. The goal of opening up before Christmas was not looking realistic.
The delivery from Germany of the perspex was short by 2 pieces. We knew we wouldn't make Christmas because they hadn't arrived. So that was pretty stressful. Working with the tide, so when I started, the tide was still flowing in and out of the building site.
Eventually, the acrylic did turn up. They managed to keep the tide out, and the fish were coming together. They had, however, missed the Christmas deadline. Kelly and Rosemary had sold their house to fund the project. They were behind schedule, and the financial pressure was mounting.
We were carrying the can. It was our money.
A new date was set. Friday, the 25th of January, 1985. A sign was made and put up outside the entrance. It simply read, "The sharks are coming." Later on, Kelly and Rosemary made a tape to send to their daughter Fiona, who was in the USA at the time on a student exchange, telling her all about the hurried preparation.
There was just so much work to do, I thought it was impossible. But it was decided that we'd spent enough money and we had to open the doors. And that was it. So we sort of worked 18 hours a day. So there was electrician gear all over the floor.
Carpets were in the process of going down.
Yeah.
The lights were going up. Painters were still painting. Filled the shark tank up.
We filled the shark tank up and we had to plant seaweed.
Kelly and his crew found it easy enough to source fish from friendly fishermen, but the star attractions, the big sharks they'd promised were coming on that sign out front, they were hard to find. Kelly dreamed of getting a great white into his tank, something never done before or since. Sharks are delicate animals. They tend to die in captivity, especially the bigger ones.
I would go out on some of the fishing trips, catching sharks.
Jo Knight was a teacher who was hired to help run school programs at the aquarium. And it wasn't long before she was being roped into plenty of other things.
We were out in the jet boat and I was standing in the middle of the Manukau harbour. I was thinking, it's quite a long way to shore, really. We were pulling a small shark in, and we had a shark tank there that we put the shark in, and then they blew oxygen past it and kept it alive while it came back in. And I was slightly concerned because the water level inside the boat was rising. Where are the life jackets? Oh, we forgot those today. Where are the wetsuits? They're drying somewhere, And so I was thinking, as a mother of 2 young boys, what am I doing here? We weren't an oiled machine at the beginning, but man, we always made it at the end.
It sounds a bit haphazard and slapdash, and bits of it were. But actually, Kelly was paying obsessive attention to every detail, even the music.
Kelly had a special sound track made for the aquarium. He actually came round to ours for dinner one night and he said, I've got some music here, can I just play it? I'd love you to listen to it. And he put this little cassette into our music system and it sounded really weird. He didn't say anything about what it was. And we kind of looked at each other going, what's Kelly on tonight? It was all poops and whistles and it was the sound system, the soundtrack for the aquarium. So yeah, it was really cool.
And the same music is still used in the aquarium today. The construction of the aquarium for a large part only worked thanks to the goodwill and enthusiasm of Kelly's crew. People were being paid, but no one was watching the clock. People like Jo Knight and Susie Thompson worked at all hours and dragged in friends and family too.
My husband would do his day's work, he'd come down to see what we were doing, and he'd be there for hours. And other people's, Kelly was a magnet like that. We went down to help them finish 3 or 4 seals of the tunnel section in the shark tank. And it was very hot. We just needed to cool down. So we all went for a swim in the fish tank. We didn't have any swimming gear, so we were all having a little skinny dip in there, and suddenly the lights came on in the tunnel. And one of the fishermen who had a key to the place had brought down his whole family, to have a look at the place. And there were 4 of us having a little swim, and I think he said his granny looked up and said, "Oh, what fish are they?" And we had to get out. So yeah, that was a good moment.
Private viewings of exotic fish aside, Friday the 25th of January 1985 had arrived. It was time to open.
The place was chaotic. They were laying carpet and spit and polish everything to make it presentable for opening at 9 o'clock in the morning. It was horrendous. Everyone was working very, very hard, but it came together and looked good.
And we saw kids in there absolutely enthralled. We saw people in wheelchairs down there. Kelly wanted everyone to come down. He had a special lift for wheelchairs built so that people could get down and look.
People in their thousands were descending on the aquarium. It was the hottest attraction in the entire country. Radio hosts from 1ZB did live crosses from the tanks all morning long, dramatising the danger as a stingray swam close to their intrepid reporters. As Kelly and Rosemary said in their message to Fiona, the popularity of the aquarium was beyond their wildest dreams.
We're lucky we put the conveyor belt in. If we hadn't had the conveyor belt, we'd never been able to handle these big crowds of people. When we're getting, I don't know how much it goes to. It must go to close to 1,000 people an hour on peak times. Certainly 800 people an hour, and we just wouldn't be able to handle that number if we didn't have that conveyor belt pushing them around.
The stingrays are best value, I think. They glide around and over the tunnel and always on the move. And
the eagle rays fly around like big sort of bats or something. The actual stingrays are round ones, sort of waft around the tank like flying carpets. They're really good things in the aquarium. They soon get friendly and they'll come and eat out of your hand. Lots of big kingfish in there now as well. Kahawai, snapper, gurnard, mado.
The aquarium was up and running. The homemade tunnels didn't leak. The travelators were humming along. The fish were thriving. Against the odds, everything was working. But there was still financial pressure, loans to repay, and the reality of running a business.
We've had about 65,000 people through, and today is the 4th week we've been open. We opened on Friday 4 weeks ago. The aquarium remains open from 9 a.m. in the morning till 9 p.m. at night, and so it makes pretty long hours for us, and we're doing it 7 days a week.
it'll be about 11:30 by the time we get out the door, because people keep on coming in. Quite a lot of money.
When you owe millions, you can't afford not to make money. We overspent on building the place by quite a lot, and that's caused a few heartaches.
The team knew they had to reach 200,000 visitors before Christmas of that year for the business to be viable. Dave Moran remembers the moment they hit the halfway mark.
The girls in the office, they had worked out that we're getting 100,000 visitors going to come through the door in a minute. Yeah, last picture of Kelly alive really is shaking the hand of this couple. Look, 100,000 visitor in 7 weeks.
The date was March 16th, 1985. The success of Kelly Tarlton's underwater world was now beyond doubt.
Kelly was really happy. Money was rolling in. We were sitting around having drinks in the office. Kelly was in his usual pose of leaning back on a chair, telling stories. And I had to leave earlier than I wanted to for some reason. And when I got upstairs, outside, there was the most spectacular sunset I had ever seen across the bay. And I wanted to go back down and get them all up, but actually I went home and rang and said, you guys, you've got to get out of there, get upstairs and have a look at that sunset. And Kelly answered the phone and he said, yep, I will, yes, we'll be up there soon, sort of thing. And they did. They went up and had a look at the sunset.
And that night, Kelly and I every night we used to walk around the aquarium looking at what we could do and stuff. And I said to Kelly, I said, you did it, Kelly? And he said, yeah, we did it. And when he said we did it, he wasn't saying like me and him, it was the whole team did it. He said, the financial pressure's gone, But he knew that now it was a success. The money was rolling through the door, no more pressure, you're going to get paid out.
And that was the day that we decided that it was a success. Kelly and I were delighted. It was a big relief. And unfortunately, Kelly had to work late that night. I went home to cook dinner and he didn't come home and he didn't come home. And eventually he did. And we had a friend with us, Jenny, who worked with us. And she stayed on with Kelly and closed up the aquarium. It was a happy night. Jenny, Kelly and I had dinner together. And then Jenny went and then Kelly fell into bed because he was tired, and I think I hung out the washing, and what one does is running a house at the same time as working. And next morning I woke up and he had died.
Kelvin Hewitt Tarlton, Kelly, died on St Patrick's Day, the 17th of March, 1985. He was 47. Kelly was a husband and a father. For Rosemary, Fiona, and Nicole, there can't be a bigger loss. But the loss was also felt by everyone who knew him, everyone who had dived with him, met him, people who had been inspired by his adventures and his determination to make the seemingly impossible a reality. Kelly's funeral was national news. Over 1,000 people descended on the underwater world where his funeral was held. 200 more gathered for a memorial service at his Museum of Shipwrecks. At the conclusion of the service, without the knowledge of the funeral director, the crew from the aquarium bailed his coffin out of the hearse and carried it into the wheelchair elevator and took Kelly for one final tour of the tunnels, his underwater world. The day after, his crew at the aquarium continued on. Dave Moran stepped up as general manager. Susie and Joe kept coming to work. And the visitors, they kept on turning up. In the year 2025, the aquarium is still operating, still as popular as ever. There have been a few additions, most notably the Antarctic section, which was added in the 1990s. But the heart of the aquarium is still those tunnels Kelly and his crew built. The aquarium's had a few changes of ownership, and with that, a name change as well. It's now known as Sea Life Kelly Tarlton's Auckland. I managed to snag an invitation to the aquarium's 40-year anniversary. A lot of Kelly's friends and family were there too. I'm standing here in the middle of the tubes and I'm literally just watching a giant stingray come over the top of me over the tube, and I can't help but marvel at how incredibly close I'm able to get to this living sea life. And you realise that actually was Kelly's vision, him wanting people to be looking up in awe of what they're seeing. And And the fact that we're able to have that experience 40 years later to the day, it still takes your breath away. I asked some of the visitors what they made of the place. Did you know it's the 40th anniversary?
Not here. No, did not know until we saw the sign when we come in. First and only time I've ever been here.
So you came to it first 40 years ago?
Yeah, and at that time, obviously it wasn't anything like this, and they were still under construction.
What's it like coming back 40 years later?
Incredible. What an incredible experience, especially with the muckles. Everyone would have heard me screaming, yelling, don't run, don't touch, don't do anything.
Where are you guys from?
India.
And you're just visiting New Zealand and you just came to the aquarium and you've learnt about this man all today?
Yes. I mean, how daring he was.
And in 7 years, he's accomplished such a large feat. Yeah, that is, really admirable. Yeah.
I mean, who would do that? Who would just jump into the ocean and,
The person in charge of keeping the place going these days is Dan Henderson. He's been general manager for the past 8 years.
This is only ever going to be Kelly Tarlton's to the New Zealand public. So it was important for us to keep that name and keep that alive.
And that's not all they're keeping alive. Since 1988, the aquarium has evolved to become a critical part of supporting New Zealand marine life with the Kelly Tarlton Marine Wildlife Trust.
And the purpose of the trust is to really look at how we can expand our education and marine conservation efforts beyond the walls of the bricks and mortar aquarium. So what we're most recognised for, I would say, or the flagship of the trust efforts is the sea turtle rehabilitation program.
The Tarlton family sold their stake in the aquarium in the late 1980s, but have remained an integral part of the place through the Kelly Tarlton Marine Wildlife Trust. Is this the most turtles you've ever seen in there, Fiona?
Definitely. There's just so many being rescued and saved at the moment, and when they're being fed, it's a little bit chaotic in the water because they're all going for it and trying to, get the bit of fish first.
No hungry turtles at Kelly Tarlton's.
No, they're all very well fed. Yeah, nice fat bellies.
It's hard not to feel Kelly's passion still within the walls of the aquarium, and for some who've worked there, this has played tricks on their mind at times.
Everybody has a ghost story about being at the aquarium after it's closed and being the only one here and seeing a shadow of Kelly or, strangely hearing a door that you shut only moments ago sort of creaking behind you. And it's quite an eerie feeling when you're here by yourself and all the lights are off.
So 40 years later, here we are, absolutely pumping today on a normal school holiday day.
Yeah.
But what does this mean to you as the family, to be able to see this all?
I'm just so proud of what Dad created and his vision and his care for marine conservation, and just seeing all these people here, families, all these different age groups, being educated about our marine environment and how important it is to care for and protect for longevity.
The 40th anniversary was a moment for a lot of joy and pride for Kelly's legacy. The thing is, I reckon Kelly never intended to be remembered as the aquarium guy. He was passionate about the aquarium, but it was also a means to an end. His dream was to use the profits of the aquarium to fund more treasure hunting adventures. Adventures that, without Kelly to drive them, never happened. For Kelly's crew of treasure hunters, this was a tragedy all on its own. And it's a cost that many of Kelly's close mates still think about 40 years later. People like Steve McIntyre.
I could just see what a massive job it was. I could see it had taken its toll on him, and I could see that he was battling the whole thing. And I think that whilst there was no risk to your own safety probably with the aquarium, it was a different type of risk, and it was probably one that he found harder to manage.
Willie Bullock.
We knew he had a hole in the heart. He had something wrong with his heart. It wasn't quite right. Had a few murmurs and stuff, but who knows whether it was that or just the whole not relief, but the pressure of building the aquarium. I heard that he sort of, would work incredibly late at nights and get up again early and that. I don't know whether that was all to do with it. Who knows?
Keith Gordon.
We had a bit of a party at home there, and Kelly and Rosemary came round and for a wee while, which I was surprised to see them. And Kelly, he was really looking quite worn in a way, and he stayed for a while, and they went off home, and I went back to Singapore, and it was 2 weeks after that that he passed away, So, yeah.
And Dave Moran.
We were going to do all this amazing things. Kelly had it all worked out, and we were going to just go wreck hunting for the rest of our lives. And then the guy that put the magic together and pulled the team together was gone, and no one's really replaced him.
I just wanted to ask, because I don't think you expected that conversation that you had with Kelly that night to be your last one. But if there was anything that you could say to him now, what would it be?
Yeah, thanks for being a very good friend. Thanks for the experiences. And thanks for the memories.
Many of Kelly's mates have gone on to successful careers in the underwater world. Between them all, there is a huge wealth of expertise, and that all started with Kelly. And having talked with a lot of these guys, reminding them about the anchor Kelly found at the bottom of Doubtless Bay, they were very keen for one last adventure. Kelly Tarlton's final treasure hunt. Thanks for listening to Kelly Tarlton's Final Treasure Hunt. If you like the show, be sure to follow us on your favourite podcasting app, and if you want to help more people find the show, please leave us a review. Kelly Tarlton's Final Treasure Hunt is written and presented by me, Hamish Williams. Our producers are Ali Callahan, William Ray, Phil Vine and Justin Gregory. Our sound engineers are William Saunders, Phil Benge and Mark Chesterman. Our production coordinator is Brianna Juritich, and executive producer is Tim Watkin. Special thanks to the Tarlton family for their support and trust in making this podcast. There is so much more to the life of Kelly Tarlton. There are some great books on his life available. We've made some recommendations on the show's webpage. You can find that at rnz.co.nz/podcasts. And while you're there, RNZ has a ton of other amazing podcasts to listen to. Can I personally recommend one I helped make a while ago, Let's Be Transparent, a podcast hosted by Joe Stockhausen, who navigates the triumphs and trials of gender transition with the help of experts, others with lived experience, and his mum.